Hey, Jake Hintz Custom Knives here. Today I'm going to take you through how I made some water-cooled quenching plates for doing stainless and tool steels. It's based roughly on a design that Terrell Knife Works did. Pretty much the same in essence, but I did a couple little tweaks just to improve the efficiency and make things work a little bit better. So we'll get into that and I'll show you how I did it.
So I started out just taking a few simple measurements to see how deep of a cut I need to and how wide my slot needs to be. It doesn't need to be a super tight fit. I want a little bit of tolerance in there. It doesn't need to be like a press fit or anything like that. You want it to touch because you'll get thermal transfer better that way, but it doesn't need to be super tight. Eyeballs are saying that should be pretty good, so we're going to go ahead and chuck it up in the mill. And I'm going to be using a 7/8 inch high-speed steel end mill here. High-speed steel works pretty well for aluminum. Obviously carbide would be better, but a 7/8 inch carbide bit is expensive, so we're going to just go with the high-speed steel. I had to kind of figure out my feeds and speeds and depth of cut a little bit, played with that. I had a lot of chatter initially, so I moved things around a little bit, and I was able to get through it. Now this is a pretty big cut for my little Grizzly mini mill here, but I was able to get through pretty well. It wasn't too big of a deal, just kind of had to get the feeds and speeds right, and I made my way through.
So here these are after getting them all milled out. These are the cooling jackets, I guess you'd call them. Simple in and out, water runs through these, in through here. Now ideally you would want water running through this whole thing, but that comes into a whole bigger process of milling and machining, and I think this is a really good option. This will still cool it down. One of the big changes I'm making, or I guess it's pretty small change actually, because this is essentially exactly how Terrell Knife Works did it. But one of the changes I'm doing to maximize heat transfer between this core and the aluminum quench plate itself is I'm going to take a little bit of thermal paste and put it down in here. You just need a really tiny layer, and that's going to make sure that we have good thermal transition between this jacket and the plate itself. It's a very simple thing, but they do it on computers and electronics all the time that have big heat transfer. So it's really important. It's going to work out, and that's really going to maximize everything. The other thing I'm going to do is how I actually route the water through these. So in Terrell Knife Works video, he routes the water in from a cool source, out here, and then through the other block, and then out into a waste. I'm going to independently route water through these, so they're both getting equally cool water at the beginning to grab heat. So you're not getting already heated water through this one coming through the other one and giving you uneven heat. Now it might be minor depending on what you're doing. It might not actually make that big of a deal. But again, I want to make sure that these blocks are equally cooled. You're not having temperature differentiation. Sometimes, especially working with thin stock, that little bit of differentiation can cause some warping in your steel. So to minimize that and make sure I'm cooling as well as possible, I'm going to route that different. So this is the thermal paste I got. You get it on Amazon. There's a lot of different kinds. You can kind of look at the thermal transfer properties of each different one, and you can get cheap stuff or expensive stuff. I kind of went middle of the road with this. I do want it to work well, but the thing about it is I thought I got the bigger amount of it. All I got was this little syringe, and that's only about half full. You know, for computers and stuff, you don't need a lot. I'm hoping this will be enough. You really need just a tiny thin layer. It doesn't need to be thick at all. So hopefully this will be enough for what I need. Otherwise, I'll just have to go back and buy another one. But we're going to clean off the surfaces on the aluminum here and then put a little of this paste on there. spread it out, and hopefully it'll be enough. Because this is a bit of an experiment yet, I'm going to use just a little bit of CA glue to kind of hold these in place. I want to be able to heat it and pop these out if I need to. If I'm happy with it later on, I'll come back with some good epoxy so that they stay in there. But because I'm still experimenting, we're going to go with something like this.
So I did a batch of 30 scalpels with this, and normally about every 2 scalpels I'm pulling the blocks out, cooling them underwater, putting it all back together. This thing, as fast as I could get them in there, I was pulling them out maybe a minute later and they were fully cooled to the touch, throwing them in the temper oven after that. This sped up the entire process way more than I even thought it would. From an efficiency standpoint, I am incredibly happy with how these things came out. I think they're pretty good. I don't know that I would really change much. I like the vertical loading of this instead of laying it flat on its side. I'm able to just drop it in there, quench it, and I'm good to go. So if you guys try this out, please let me know what you think. Please comment, subscribe, give me your thoughts. Hopefully it works out as well as for you as it did. I want to thank Tyrell Knife Works for the inspiration on this one, and we'll see you on the next one.